Hello, mate.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tom Numbers Show. Subtitle is Top of Your Game in association with Psych.Club. People will know me from my Psych.Club channel. I do the numbers. But I have a very special guest with me today for everyone. It's Mr. Matthew Tissier, Le God, as he was nicknamed at Southampton at the Dell and at the Merry Stadium. Matt, how are you, sir?
All good, thanks, mate. Yeah, can't complain. And you?
Yeah, very good, very good. We did a little episode a few weeks ago together with Scott, and we thought we'd follow it up with a more in-depth conversation with yourself about football and your career and life, and you know, things that interest you and things that go on. But I always like to start the show with a little bit of numbers. Some people will know what I'm talking about, and new viewers that maybe find the channel through Matt and are pure football fans may not understand what we're talking about when we talk about numbers. So I prepared a few little things for you, Matt, that I think you'll personally enjoy. So numbers, or gematria, which is the technical name for it, is very simple. It's A is the first letter of the alphabet, so therefore it equals 1. B is the second letter, so therefore it equals 2. C is the third, equals 3. D equals the fourth, so therefore 4, all the way through to Z or Z, which is the 26th letter. And what you can do is you can work out the numerical value of words, people, places, names, favorite teams, sports, all those kinds of things. And I prepared just before we kind of go into the main flow of it, Matt, I've prepared a couple for yourself. So your name is Matt Tissier, and that comes to 170 when you work out the numbers. That also comes to a bolt of lightning, which is, I always talk about Back to the Future. I think it's a great film series. We might get into some of your favorite films later on down the line. But you were literally a bolt of lightning. You struck passion and enjoyment and excitement into the beautiful game. But this is the bit I think is really appropriate for you, Matt. So the word football is 83. The word artist is 87. If you do 83 plus 87, football artist, it comes to 170, which is Matt Tissier. Mm-hmm. So I found that one and I thought, oh, wow, I'll share that with Matt when we kick off the show. And there is magic in the numbers, you know.
Indeed, it seems that way.
It does. I was actually with Simon Jordan yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And he said to say hello, he said to give a shout out to you. And you'll know that Simon is on the Talk Sport show. So Talk Sport comes to 132 and Simon Jordan comes to 132. So there's another little bit of it as well. So this keeps going on and on and on. And I got to ask Simon a question. He did Oxford yesterday, and I asked him a question about Trump and politics and leadership. And interesting enough, the word Trump is 88, but it also comes to sport. Sport is 88, Trump is 88. So anyway, I thought that'd just some nice kind of little bit of brain candy for people to go over. But Matt, I wanted to dive into your career. And one of the things I don't know if I've asked you this in the past, but you were born in the Channel Islands. You grew up in the Channel Islands. Yep. And your career, you played for Southampton and you played with England. Now, this might sound a little controversial, but I want to kind of get your perspective from it and dive into it. So technically, you may have been able to play. It might be myth, but you can put me wrong if you can put me right if it's incorrect. But you may have been able to play perhaps for France instead of England. Is that true, or is that just myth?
That's a myth.
Okay.
I never had any French ancestry.
Okay.
Not for many hundreds of years. So, yeah, I didn't qualify to play for France. However, being from Guernsey, I did qualify for any of the home nations.
Oh, okay. So you could have played for Wales, Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland? Or just Northern Ireland?
Just Northern Ireland it would have been, yeah, technically.
Okay. So Okay, so the France thing is cleared up. The French thing is cleared up. But I quite often do this. I'll watch some of my favourite players from the past and watch their goals, and I've been doing that recently again with yourself. And one of my go-to favourites again is Zidane. Now, when I'm looking at Zidane playing and how he could dictate matches and how he could slow everything down, very similar to yourself in a Le Tissier kind of style, would just pull the ball out of anywhere, control it, do a turn, a swivel, a jink, a trick, and then a shot or a pass. So someone like him is inspiring, and someone like you was inspiring for people that loved the game, when we were younger. Still love it now, but there seems to be a slight difference between maybe players kind of your time and Zidane's time. But have you ever got to play with him in a charity game or anything like that? Because I think it would have been wonderful to see the two of you on the same pitch.
Yeah, sadly not. No, it would have been nice because obviously he was an outstanding footballer, one of the world's best. So it was a shame I never got to do that.
Are there any others that people may not know that you played with, but you've played kind of in exhibition games and things like that? Others of that sort of caliber?
I think I played in an exhibition game once with. Remember Carlos Valderrama, the Colombian with all the big...
the Colombian Rude Hullet,
Yeah, so I played in Peter Shilton's England testimonial match at White Hart Lane. I was only a kid, I was probably only 21, I would have said, maybe not even that old, maybe. But yeah, I was quite young, but Peter asked me to go and play in it. And he had some big names probably playing that day, but he was the one that stood out because of his hair, but I can't remember who all the other players were.
Yeah, he had that kind of jig, didn't he? That and was it René Higuita, the goalkeeper as well, that was quite flamboyant for Colombia as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was. Who else? I played against Lothar Matthäus.
Did you?
In a charity game. I don't know if you remember. Actually, it was a game. I'm pretty sure it was Lothar Matthäus. It was a game against England against Germany, but it was like a celebrity thing, but Boris Johnson actually played in it.
Did he?
And it was the game where it's quite a famous clip where he loses his balance. He's going to tackle one of the German players. He loses his balance and he staggers forward and he ends up going head first into the German guy's stomach. And it was like a rugby tackle on him.
Yeah, Okay, that was against a select German side. Okay.
Yeah, so I played in that game. So that was quite funny. Yeah, so I've been on the same team as Boris Johnson, which if I'd have known then what I know now.
I didn't get to play with him, but I met so shortly after the Olympics in 2012, Boris gave a speech and address actually in Trafalgar Square, and I went along to it, and then he was just mingling with the public and got on his bike. I got a little selfie with him. But yeah, I didn't know the future either. But and actually, he literally got on his bike. He had I guess his assistant with him who held the bike, handed it to him, and literally he jumped straight on it and then straight into. He didn't even look over his shoulder to see any oncoming traffic. It went and he whizzed right up St Martin's Lane and off he went, like this kind of big kind of polar bear character with the big Parker coat, and off he went. So that wasn't PR about the bike. He literally did use it. So yeah, he was quite a force of nature when he got on it. What year would that have been then, when you played in that?
That was after I retired, so that would have been that was around 2006, I reckon, something like that.
Okay. What year did you retire, Matt?
2002.
2002. Okay.
Yeah.
So 20 years ago.
May 2002. Yeah, so it'd be 20 years this May.
Coming up in May. Okay. So the subtitle of the show, like I said, it's the Tom Numbers Show, top of your game. So what would you put down your ability came? Where would you say your ability to play at that top level came from?
I came from quite a sporty family. So my mum's three brothers were all good footballers. one of them played semi-pro over in England for a short time. My dad was a good footballer. He had a trial at Arsenal as a 19-year-old. My 3 older brothers were all very good footballers. 2 of them turned down chances to become professionals with Oxford and Southampton. And so it was kind of in the genes, really. And I kind of just grew up. My whole childhood was basically sport and school, and that was it.
Okay.
So if I wasn't at school, I was playing sport of some description. So I played a lot of sports. I was pretty good at cricket. If I hadn't been a footballer, I think I would have tried to have been a cricketer. Would have been my second choice.
Yeah.
But I played all ball sports. Oh, I've lost you.
About that. Yeah, I'm back again. Sorry about that. So I didn't know that about your brothers. I know that they were good, but was there a specific reason they declined to not go pro?
Yeah, they didn't want to leave the island. They got homesick.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty it's a pretty cool place to grow up, because it's probably like the most safest environment you could bring kids up in.
Yeah.
But it's very close knit, and it is a bit of a wrench to get away from it, to be honest. And I struggled a little bit for a few months when I first came over.
Yeah.
But my desire to be a footballer was so great that I got over it.
Do you think your brothers could have been as good as you if they had have played?
They'll tell you they were better than me.
Yeah, it's like Beckham's dad says he's better than him, wasn't it? That's that was old Ted Beckham used to like pulling that one out.
Yeah, so I would have said my brother Kevin, who set all through his football career locally in Guernsey, set all sorts of records. He averaged a goal a game over about a 20-year period. So he was like an Alan Shearer type centre forward.
Okay.
And then my brother Carl was a creative midfielder, who also had a good eye for goal. I think he's the top scorer midfielder in Guernsey history. So they were both pretty good in their own right. And what I like to tell the both of them is that Kevin was a very good centre forward, Carl was a very good midfielder, and I had the best of both of them. There you
go. And are they older than you, Matt, or are you?
Yeah, Carl's 4 years older and Kevin's 6 years older.
Okay, so it's the three brothers basically.
My eldest brother Mark, who's 7 years older than me, he was the only defender out of the 4 of us, and he was the only left footer out of the 4 of us as well. And he didn't quite get the recognition that everyone else got, because we were always scoring goals. And he was just a stopper at the back, but he could play a bit as well, to be fair to him.
So you're the youngest of the 4 boys?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. It's interesting as well that you just mentioned Alan Shearer. And Alan obviously was a great goal scorer for Blackburn, for Southampton, for Newcastle, and for England. I was actually watching a previous podcast from a few years ago last night with him, and he mentioned you on the Geordie. Is it the Geordie talk show? The Geordie,
oh, yeah.
Great Geordie show. Yeah, so he was mentioning playing with yourself. But Shearer, the word Shearer, interesting enough, comes to 74, which is gematria. So anyway, it's another little bit of numbers that pops in when I talk to people, when I'm talking to you, and it comes to mind. So so going back to Guernsey, this is curious. I've never actually had the privilege to go to the Channel Islands. I'd love to go. The way you're describing it is a bit of a wrench for people to leave the island, because if it's that kind of utopian paradise, I could imagine it would be. Is it Golden Sands kind of on all 4 or 5 corners, or?
It's a triangular shaped island, and there are beaches and bays all around it, and it's lovely. In the summer, it's lovely. I mean, in the winter, it can get a little bit bleak because the wind is always there.
Yeah,
I grew up kind of pretty near the coast, but in the summer, if the weather's nice, the beaches are as good as anywhere in the world.
Really? Do you have kind of is there a bit of a kind of tropical element to it, like very clear kind of turquoise sea?
It's a very cold sea.
Yeah.
But it is pretty clear. Yeah, it's pretty good, and the beaches are kind of They just kind of go out very gradually, and it's really safe to go swimming over there on a lot of the beaches. And yeah, I mean, my childhood growing up, I just spent my entire summers on the beach, really, whenever I could. Not normally swimming, but playing cricket and football on the beach.
So, in talking of cricket, what position would you like? What were you, a batsman, a bowler?
Yeah, so I used to keep wicket. I could bowl, but I enjoyed keeping wicket more. And primarily I was a batsman.
Batsman, okay. So a wicket keeper and a batsman. And do you think if football hadn't have been one of your loves as well, do you think you could have played at the top level for cricket?
I'll never know that. I mean, I was quite good in the island, the standard that I was playing at over there, and I would have fancied my chances as a batsman. I had a pretty good eye for the ball, and you know, with the right coaching, you just don't know until I never really, as a kid, I never faced 85 mile an hour, 90 mile an hour delivery. So it would have been interesting to see how I cope with that. But as you grow older, everything just gets a bit quicker anyway. So you adapt to it, and that's how I would have thought I would have done anyway.
85. 85 is Storm actually. Matrix, Awakening, interesting. Pick those numbers. So, in terms of, if you could have chosen, would you have, if it was just football or cricket, and you had the option and the clear option to pick one or the other to be a pro? You've obviously had a great. I think Gary Lineker said once that he wishes he could have been a top cricketer and he would have definitely chosen it over football. I just wondered, how much of your passion for cricket was there over football, or if there was.
But it's no surprise to know that I would have the opposite opinion of Gary Lineker on that. like we have an opposite opinion on many topics by the sounds of things.
Lineker's 74 as well, same as Shearer, Gematria, same numbers, interestingly enough. Yeah, but that's fun. So you would definitely stayed in the football camp.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, everyone's glad about that because we got to actually witness it. It's not hypothetical; it's reality. Talking of reality, Matt, I just wanted to pick your brain on this. I don't know where you stand on this, but I've been doing quite a few videos recently about the subject of time travel.
Right.
And it's a bit out there. But there seems to be, in my discovery with things like numbers and just kind of studying a little bit outside the box, having an open mind, and I know you're kind of that similar ilk and open to possibilities. Have you got any thoughts or opinions on that, or even experience or knowledge, or just do you think it's something that's possible? Maybe let's start off with that. Do you think that could be possible? I mean, it's in people's consciousness, and I wonder why.
Yeah, it's an interest. It's not really something that I've given a huge amount of thought to be honest with you. You see it in films and all that kind of stuff, and you kind of just think that it's a bit of a science fiction thing. And but I always think if somebody's got the creativity of mind to actually think about that in the first place, then there might be something to it, because otherwise, why would it not? Why would you be able to imagine it if there's nothing to it? Do you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
If it's possible for your mind to conjure it up, and I've always thought that there was something so much unknown about our minds, and I think there's so much more there to be tapped into. So I would never dismiss anything completely out of hand, because I just think the world is an amazing place, and things happen that are way beyond anybody's control. So why wouldn't there be the possibility of that? I would never rule it out completely unless there was concrete evidence to say it is impossible to do it.
I hear you. I mean, it's something I didn't used to think about too much prior to kind of, I guess, 2020, things changing a lot. I mean, I had contemplated about it before. It was in films like Back to the Future, like, you mentioned, it's in movies, it's in books, it's in science fiction, Star Trek and Star Wars. I mean, they have warp speed.
One of the things that made me think a little bit along those kind of lines was the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
where, you know, quite a lot of people, way before he actually died, thought that he'd already died. And I'm talking of, I think it was the president of I think it was George Bush who actually said it in an interview. And so strange things like that happen. And some people, when I was watching that little thing about the Mandela effect, and they were explaining what could possibly happen, they mentioned something like some people believe that there are 51, that Hawaii became the 51st state in the USA.
Huh.
And when I grew up, I can remember as a kid thinking there's 51 states in the USA, not 50.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a bit weird. I thought there was 51. and obviously, since I've grown up and it said it's 50, I just kind of went, oh, right, I must have got it wrong when I was a kid then. But then when I heard this guy say it, when he was talking about the Mandela effect thing, I was like, oh, shit. Maybe I didn't just imagine it. Maybe I... And it does. Little things like that just make you think that, you know, that there may be other stuff out there that you kind of we don't fully understand right now.
Yeah, 51st state. Now you're saying that I've got. I don't know if it's because you're saying it to me, but I can draw out some kind of things about a 51st. I knew 50, but there does seem to be some echoes of 51st state around as well. Because I'm not. How old are you, Matt, right now?
53.
53. Okay, so I think Jordan's 53 actually. So, but I'm 46. So that we're 7 years apart. We're not too far apart. So we're still in the same sort of vicinity. You'd be like an older brother to me. But yeah, 51st state. That's an interesting one. That is. There's been some other things as well. So something I picked up. I was in New York in September of last year. I want to say this year, but we're now in January. And it always seems to be speeding up and getting quicker and quicker, but that's probably another discussion. But I was in New York, and there's a hotel called the New Yorker Hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's on 8th Avenue. And historically, Nikola Tesla, the scientist, he stayed, and he lived there for the best part of 10 years, of a decade. And I actually got to stay in the Tesla suite. So when he lived there, it was 2 rooms together, kind of on a corner. And it was his living quarters plus his study. But now they've broken it into 2 units. One is the study and one is where he lived. So I stayed in the study for one night. Then a few nights later, I managed to get into the actual living quarters and stayed there for a few days. But he's talked a lot about the possibility of time travel and his inventions. And there's a guy that I do episodes with called 107, and he talks about other physics. So we've got the physics that we kind of deal with now, but there appears to be something called other physics, which is another set of possibilities and actual realities. Like you said, there's other things that we don't really fully understand. But the thing about Tesla, and interesting enough, someone's been in the news recently, is Djokovic. He's from Serbia. That's where Tesla was from, and he's mentioned him in episodes. He did an episode with Wim Hof, the Iceman, not too long ago. I don't know if they spoke about Tesla in that, but Djokovic definitely did talk about Tesla in another episode he did. But the reason I mention that, so it's on 8th Avenue, and if you do the numbers on 8th Avenue, it comes to 125, which comes to time travel. Also comes to John Kennedy, and there's thoughts in some areas, and I'm quite a favour with some of that, that maybe even the Kennedys have been kind of involved in time travel, and that spills over to Trump. And I mean, if you do Emmett Brown in Back to the Future, he's the Doc. He's the doctor character that actually invented time travel, and he has a DeLorean. DeLorean is 74, which is gematria, which is the technical name for the numbers that I do. Shearer, we mentioned Shearer 74, DeLorean 74. But Emmett Brown comes to 148, and 148 comes to simple gematria, which is an extrapolated title of this number process I'm doing. but 148 comes to Donald J. Trump, and it also comes to Time Traveler. So there's a lot of, in terms of the numbers, which is kind of one of my skill sets, there's things that point to the possibility of that. And things like the Matrix, there's bits in the Matrix where they show the possibilities of time travel. There's a bit with the guy, I think he's the Keymaster, or the Keymaster, and he's on a train platform. He goes in one direction, and then you see him basically come back to where he started from. And I've had a sense of those things on a couple of occasions, and it's curious, and it's interesting. You've got the Mandela effect, and there are things that maybe we can't pin the tail on the donkey yet, but we've experienced things, and we're like, hang on. And I was speaking to a guy, Ron Watkins, the other night with Rachel. His name's, he goes by the name Code Monkey Z. He's actually running for a position in politics in Arizona. But he asked the question, which was really interesting. He said, if you have time traveled, would you know that you have? And then kind of got into the discussion a little bit after off camera. I was talking with Rachel about it, and maybe if we did, maybe we would leave kind of Easter eggs or little kind of things to pick up later down the line. Like you said about the Mandela effect, it's like we thought it was this, but then it wasn't. But then it's like a paradox. It's like, how do you actually know? But it seems to be there are these little things in the universe, in the reality, in the matrix, whatever you want to call it, that seem to tend to point to the possibility that may be occurring. And I'm excited to know more about it, because I can't say, oh yeah, you do X, Y, Z, and this is what you get. I don't know how it works, but I'm open to learning and exploring it. So it's interesting your thoughts on it, and yeah, continue, please.
Yeah, I mean, I've always keep an open mind about things, and if I've always said if evidence changes, I'll change my opinion.
Yes.
And I think that's the most important thing, and that's one of the things that we've kind of lost a little bit, I think, over the last couple of years with what's gone on in the media and with the whole response to COVID and everything. And that's, you know, one of the things that kind of stood out for me and made me want to actually go, you know, I've got to say something. There's something not quite right.
Yes. Yeah. And even in the so the nature of reality, I mean, I don't know if you're a religious man, you're a spiritual man, or you're definitely an open-minded man. I mean, what are some of your thoughts on the actual nature of reality, of like why we're here, what's it all about? You know, from your perspective, your understanding, your feeling, it might just be a hunch. I mean, any things that you think could be the case, or even you believe may be the case of why we're here, what we're here to do, the point of it, I guess, the purpose of it.
Yeah, I've never really thought that deeply about the meaning of life.
Sounds like it is a Monty Python sketch, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of always I've been pretty relaxed in my life, and I knew what I was good at from an early age. And I kind of just felt like I was put on this earth to play football and to put a smile on people's faces, letting them watch what I could do on a football pitch. And that's kind of about as deep as I've gone into it, really. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a particularly religious man. I don't go to church every Sunday. But, you know, I go to weddings, I go to christenings, I go to funerals. And when you're in those situations, you know, it does, I don't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In those situations at all. I know some people do, but I'm completely comfortable with that. And as you say, I'll always keep an open mind, because until you have undeniable proof right in front of your eyes, then I've kind of got to the stage in my life where I just go, well, anything's possible unless you can tell me and prove to me otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. And even like you say, in terms of the proof, if something is real, then I do believe it can be proved, and it may even be a different set of parameters that are pieces of the proof, but nevertheless they're there. You know, and one of the things I discovered was the numbers early on in March of 2020. I didn't know about them. No one told me, but it was just something I kind of picked up along this way, and it's kind of just been a helpful tool to observe and connect a few dots for me from a personal point of view. Deja vu, talking of the Mandela effect. So deja vu, I mean, that's pointed out in the film The Matrix. In the first one, cat walks across and he's like, "What's that?" And I think it's deja vu, and the cat walks again, and they're like, "Oh, that's a glitch in the Matrix." It's it spins them off on a certain tangent in the story. But deja vu, any thoughts on what that is? Do you think that's maybe connected to the Mandela effect, per se?
It could well be. It could well be in that family of stuff. But yeah, I've certainly, in my lifetime, I've certainly had moments where I've gone, "Hang on, I know this. I've been here before." And I go, "No, I can't place it, but I definitely feel like I've been here before. I know this situation." And yeah, it's a little bit odd. And again, I've never really given it kind of more thought than that, because it's not a danger to me. I don't feel any sense of urgency or danger about a situation like that, where it felt like I've been here before. So I've kind of just let it roll over me, really, to be honest.
Talking of being there before, and this is maybe a two-way perspective on this. When you're on the pitch, so the thing is, you're an artist on the pitch. You're a football artist, and you've given one of your intrinsic gifts that you were granted. I mean, you had to apply yourself, etc. But you did have a superior gift with the ball. Did you feel, drilling it down to actually on the pitch, did you ever feel those deja vu moments that you kind of knew this is going to happen here, and you could kind of sense something that was about to happen, a few seconds beforehand, and then just execute it with your ability to do that?
Yeah, I think some people kind of just assume that you kind of read the game well. That's how they describe it in football. They go, "Well, how did you know that ball was going to go there?" And they'll go,
"Right,
well, you read the game well." And sometimes, yeah, you have to have a good imagination.
Yes,
I think that's the key. I think for being a creative flair type player in football. So I have a good imagination. I also have to, and sometimes, I can remember one particular incident which really stands out to me, where I'd imagined that something was going to happen, and it happened. And
I know what you're going to say.
Well, you might not. There's a couple of instances. So, kind of the last goal at the Dell incident was kind of something that I just wanted so badly that I'd imagined it in my head to have happened so many times.
Yeah.
The days leading up to it, and then it went and happened. But the incident I was going to talk about was against Spurs at White Hart Lane. It was when Ozzy Osvaldo was manager, and the Spurs had this team of like loads of forwards, and they just all piled forward. And we went and played them early on in the season, and we were drawing 1-1. Couldn't have been long left, maybe 10 minutes. And I think it was Jeff Kenner had gone down the right wing, and he popped a cross into the box, a low cross. So, and it was, I was stood behind, who was the lad? Stuart Nethercott, I think his name was. So I'm stood behind him.
Yeah.
About 4 or 5 yards behind him. And the ball is kind of going in front of him, so in between him and the goal. And it's going to bounce about 4 yards in front of him. And so as the ball gets whipped across, I see the ball is going to bounce 4 or 5 yards before him. I see him, I see what he's doing, I see his body movement, and I see he's going to try and clear this with his left foot, because he needs to get the ball out away from danger.
Okay.
But the pitch was quite wet.
Yeah.
So it was, we must have had a bit of rain that night. And in my mind, I'm going, once that ball hits the ground, it's going to pick up pace. And it's going to be really difficult for him to hit this ball. He might miss this.
Right.
Not just like not connect with it. I'm thinking a professional footballer with a ball coming at him, he's going to take a swipe at it, and he's going to completely miss the ball.
Shot.
Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
With professional footballers, it doesn't happen very often at all. So the ball hits the ground. I see him lift his left leg up, and the ball just gathers pace, and he completely misses the ball. And because I've already seen him missing the ball, I'm in a position, and the ball's coming quick at me now because it's picked up the pace off the ground. So I'm in a position now where I know the ball's coming towards me. And so it skids past him. It comes to me. I control it kind of with my upper thigh, and I just pop the ball and I side foot it into the net, and we win the game 2-1. And that moment still sticks with me now because I knew he was going to miss, and I don't know how. I have no idea how I knew he was going to miss it, but I pictured it, and I pictured everything that was going to happen, and so I put myself in a position where I could control the football, knowing that he was going to miss it. It was really odd.
Wow. Do you remember roughly what year and month that was? We could look that up.
September the 12th, 1994, and it was a Monday night.
Okay.
It was Monday night football, I think.
September 12th, 1994. September the 12th. Okay, interesting. And that was a 2-0 win.
2-1 win.
2-1 win. So that was the winner.
Jurgen Klinsmann scored for them, and I scored a penalty and that winner.
Nice. Is that the? And I know Jurgen. He probably won't thank me for saying this, but I did a little piece with Jurgen in the summer. Actually, great player, great guy. And is that when you nutmegged him?
No, that was at the Dell. That was a different game. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that wasn't intentional. I didn't do that on purpose.
Okay. Just happened in the flow.
I miscontrolled it.
Did you? Well, that's very honest of you to say, actually, because yeah, okay. Talking of Alan Ball, obviously, people that don't know, Alan Ball was a World Cup winner for England, and he was Matt's manager, and probably the most successful time in terms of goal scoring and numbers for Matt's career. And this guy, Alan Ball, just really loved and recognised Matt as the prodigy of football that he was at the time. Sadly, Alan has passed, but that brings me on to a question, Matt. Talking of things like Mandela effect, the greater picture of life, have you had any experiences where you felt that you've been communicated to from loved ones or beings that have passed on, or maybe not even ones that we knew in this life, but somehow some kind of special communication or contact of some description from people or beings that have passed, or maybe future beings, perhaps?
No, I don't really have any experiences of that. Although I did go, and I was in America on a golf trip with some mates, and we were bored one evening and just walking down a street, and there was a fortune teller.
Yes.
So my mate decided that we should go in and just for the hell of it, just go and have a go.
Yeah.
So he went first and told them all this stuff, and then I went in there, and I think she looked at my hand for the lines on my hands, and then she went. At this point, I got 2 kids, and I was divorced. And I had vowed at that point that I didn't ever want any more kids.
Right.
And so as she sat there, she went, you're going to have 3 children in your life. And I went, okay. And I walked out, and I said to my mate, I went, well, that's a load of bollocks. I said, I've got 2, I ain't having any more. And now I have a 12-year-old daughter. So I have 3 kids, and I look back at that and go, yeah, she was right. How did she know that?
Fantastic, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that about a fortune teller, because I'd only heard, I'd never had any readings or anything like that. I'd never really looked into it much, but because of the nature of doing numbers and the show, Psych.Club, etc., and now branching into the Tom Numbers show, top of your game, but with the element of the numbers. So there's a friend of mine and a fellow guest that I do episodes with, and her name's Janine. She's Canadian, Tarot by Janine. But I started doing episodes with her. Bryce brought me into her, and she actually interviewed me for her show on New Year's Eve. and it's a beautiful interview. But she's the I guess the person that has opened me to the possibility of things like fortune telling, reading, card reading, tarot. I really didn't know anything about it, but she is a world-class tarot reader. And even though I didn't know anything about it, when I was in her presence doing the show, and the number of shows we've done now, I could just sense like this woman's special. She's got some kind of gift, and the things that she can do and pull are amazing. And some of the things that she said, personally, because I'll get to ask her questions kind of off screen, and we'll do some on the show as well. She's really actually incredible. So that's fascinating that you met someone a while ago and predicted that you would have a third child, which you have now. So yeah, it's one of those things that being open to. And the other thing about it, tarot, the word tarot, T-A-R-O-T, comes to 74, which again comes to gematria, which is the technical name for the numbers. And DeLorean, the time machine car in Back to the Future, 74, DeLorean, London 74, Jesus 74, Messiah 74, Muhammad 74, Tarot 74, a lot of stuff. English 74, simple 74. Your nickname was LeGod, you know. There's lots of stuff, there's lots of things with it, but that's a fascinating thing. And one of the things that I sense with it is it seems to be that as we're going through this, people can call this whatever they want, you know. We're all having our own experiences of kind of since 2020 onwards, maybe even before that, people were kind of becoming aware of things. Some people have maybe been open to it for decades, maybe all their life. But definitely those that have had that kind of open, inquiring mind. But as the world shifted in many ways, and we all know what that is, but on the flip side of that, there seems to be this opening of knowledge, of understanding, and of experiences. And I think that perhaps one of them, maybe with the tarot, is connecting with, dare I say it, the spirit world, you know, kind of other dimensional things. And I've had that in some of my videos, Matt. I'll be talking about numbers, and I'll get orbs of light appear behind me in the kitchen here, and I don't know that they're going on. And they're all documented on my channel. You know, people can see it, and my audience would say in the comments, "Tom, you've got an orb. Something's happening behind you." And I'll be like, "Oh, that's cool." And sometimes they're in different shapes. Sometimes they're brighter than others. Sometimes they're kind of more like a kind of a holographic circle, and it will move. Sometimes they're kind of brighter. Sometimes they're slower. Sometimes they move in a different direction. Sometimes they go up or down. But it's actually pretty cool and fun. And what they are, I mean, I've got my personal thoughts on it. But actually what they are, I don't know for sure. But I do think that they're special. They seem to be kind and enlightening. But that's fascinating about that example of when you just, you know, you're open to the possibility, and now you got your 12-year-old daughter, you know. So it is like the world is just a bigger tapestry than what we see, you know.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. I don't doubt that at all. It's there's a lot of things that we don't understand. I don't know if there's people on this planet that do understand it and aren't telling everyone exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's a lot of stuff that is going on this planet that we don't know about just yet.
Talking about the planet, have you ever had any things with like UFOs or aliens or anything like that? Any things in the sky that you have recognized or thought, actually, that's pretty interesting? I don't know what that is, but that's pretty cool.
No, not really that I can recall. With, you know, most things could be explained away by aeroplanes in the sky, really. Nothing been crystal clear that I would definitely go, oh yeah, that's definitely something a bit odd. I've not really had any of that, but I mean, there's plenty of evidence around of that kind of stuff if you want to go and look for it.
Yeah, I'd never had any real experiences with it. I did when I was in Arizona, and I can't prove exactly what they were, but I did have some. I was having dinner with a couple of people that I knew, and one of them said, "Look up there, Tom." And she's pointing up to the sky, and Arizona apparently is a kind of a hotbed for that sort of stuff, that sort of activity. And and there's planes moving around the sky, and there's some stars and things. But she goes, look at that, and it looks to me like a star or a planet just at first observation. But there's no twinkle, so it's kind of so you would probably call it technically a planet, but it kind of wasn't. It wasn't. But she's pointing at it, and it's just there. It doesn't seem to be hovering per se. It doesn't seem to have any kind of mechanical, elements to it, like moving slightly over a period of time. Anyway, she points to it, and then it just dims off, and then it comes back on again. I'm like, oh, okay. But she did this like 3 or 4 times, and at different points in the sky. And I was like, she knows where they are, And I was like, okay. And it didn't freak me out, but I was like, well, that's interesting. And then she and the other lady we were with, they went kind of further out into kind of under the veranda of the restaurant that we were at. And I'm looking and I'm trying to film it. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to come back on. It's going to come back. And it didn't. It's just, so basically kind of when she did it, it would come on and off. I was like, okay, that's cool. I've never seen that. I've looked at the stars all my life. I love looking at the stars. But I've never seen that, And then a few nights later, when I was staying in Arizona, I would sleep. I don't know if you've ever been there, Matt, but it's a deserty, it's a desert. There's a different feel. There's a different energy there.
I'm just trying to think, actually. I think it was in Scottsdale that I had the
That's where I was. You had what, sorry, in Scottsdale?
That's where I saw the fortune teller.
No way.
Mm.
Wow, that's where I had the experience with the lights on and off.
Ah, right, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay, well that's making more sense now, because Scott, that's where I was, and I would sleep here I sleep like a bear, when I'm asleep, but there I would sleep very lightly, so I'd be asleep for 15 minutes, wake up, go out the back garden, look up at the stars, look at Orion. So, that's great. And then I go back to bed, and I could do that 3 or 4 times a night. Go to bed for another 2 hours, wake up. Oh, and I didn't even feel tired, but I was like, oh, it's dark. All right, I'll go look out in the garden. I'm here in Arizona. It's a nice clear sky. I'll do that. Yeah. But a couple of days later, after this first experience in Scottsdale, I looked up, and there's a constellation in the sky called Cassiopeia, and it looks quite like a W. So it's like a W. W is 23. I am in the numbers. But anyway, Cassiopeia. I'm looking up, and it's literally the first one I kind of come out back garden, look up. It's the first one I recognise. And there's 2 what appear to be stars in the constellation, but they seem to be brighter than usual. And I'm like, okay. And literally just within a few seconds, I'm looking up, and then one of them slowly, well, not super slow, but slowly controlled, dims off. I'm like, it's one of them. Okay, so I smile, and it doesn't come back on like the other night. They were coming back on, except when it was just me on my own, they'd dim off, and then that was it. And then I see the other one that's bright in the constellation, and that one dims off. I'm like, okay, that's 2 in Cassiopeia. I know what the constellation is. I know what I'm looking at, and they both dimmed off. I'm like, okay, cool. And I waited for a while, and they didn't come back on. And then I kind of went further into the garden, looked up at Orion, and still checked back to see if they didn't come back on. But it was incredible. It was like, okay, and it was subtle, but it was elegant. It was beautiful. It was simple. It was like, it didn't freak me out, but I was like, okay, something is lining up in that constellation of Cassiopeia, which I know, and now it's one switched off. Okay, and the second one's gone. Okay, great, I got that. And who or what that was, I don't know, but it was in Scottsdale. Yeah, and Scottsdale, if I remember right, I think Scottsdale comes from 118, the storm, the awakening, the matrix. There's definitely something special about Scottsdale and Arizona. So hey, I didn't know that about your fortune teller in Scottsdale. You didn't know that about me, and this is not scripted, none of it is, but that's interesting.
I do know that you've received a text message on your phone on your WhatsApp just now.
I have.
Yeah.
Have I? How do you know that? Oh, because you just sent it to me. I've recorded on here your message, because my phone that will receive the text message is what we're recording on. So I've okay, but well, there you go. You put, yeah, fortune telling and being able to predict it. Was that, what did you say in there?
It said I've got to finish at 5:15, mate.
Okay, brilliant. All right, buddy. Well, that's good to know. So we've got about 7, 8, 9 minutes left. We'll wrap up. Yeah, that's, when were you out in Scottsdale?
I've been there 3 times, I think, on golf trips now. I think 2000 and, blimey, it might have been 2006 or 7, something like that, maybe the first time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I love it out there. I mean, it's okay. I've done the numbers on Arizona, so I know what Arizona comes to 84, which comes to is an alien. So that phrase is Arizona 84 is an alien 84. Whether it is, whether there's that, I don't know, but I think there's something there. A lot of people have claimed, and you've had some kind of experience there. I've had some kind of experience there, and I think it's obviously probably in other places, but it doesn't seem to be a coincidence that one of the hotbeds is that area, and I had my thing there and you had yours, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I miss it. I love it. It's a different world. Going back to football, Matt. You talked about the mindset. You talked about your ability and your, well, we didn't talk about too much of the mindset. Maybe we'll go into that for a moment. But you talked about it genetically, kind of it, and environmentally, you were brought up with football and sport, and it was kind of just natural, and you had it in hereditary from your parents. Your brothers had it. What do you think? Like, okay, is there anything that you would have done differently? Not in terms of where you played with you, but if you could rewind your career, is there anything that you would do differently? Perhaps maybe to even get more out of your career. And I don't mean, because people have asked you plenty of times about, oh, you could have gone to different. I'm not talking about that. Just something.
Yeah.
Is there something you know now you'd have done more?
I would probably have looked after my body a bit better.
Okay.
I would have probably fueled my body better than I did.
Okay.
So my diet wasn't very good for a professional athlete.
Okay. So nutrition, things like that. Alcohol, I don't know if you're a big drinker or not. I don't know.
No, wasn't a big drinker.
Okay. So you liked your grub. As you can see, I like mine as well. So that would have been maybe a tweak. Okay, got it. And talking about improving football, what things would you like to see improved in the game today? Like if you were able to have a direct influence and say, actually, these are some of the things that we could do and we should do and we need to do, and you had the power to do it. What if any changes, improvements, what would you suggest? I would suggest that the guy who's in charge of the referees leaves, and somebody else takes charge of the group of referees and mentors them better than what they're being done at the moment. I think there should be a ex-player in the VAR room. I like VAR if it's used properly. I think they could do with a set of eyes in that room from a professional footballer's perspective as opposed to just a official's perspective. I think that would help them come to better decisions on occasions. Yes.
And I think the other thing I would like to see is the referees really clamp down on diving in the game and not letting players get away with diving without giving them cards, which has happened quite a lot this season.
Simulation. Right.
Yeah, very frustrating.
How do you think, it's interesting to say VAR comes to 41, so I knew that, I just double checked it, but 41 comes to Dream. We've been talking about kind of the ethereal things of, past lives and Mandela. Anyway, Dream, but going back to kind of grassroots football on the pitch, how do you think you could get people into ex-players? Do you think there needs to be more money put in? Because there's been the old argument for a while, you get ex-players being the referees and you get a better quality referee. And I think that, oh, are you there still, Matt? Yeah, there you are. Do you think if they made it financially more of an incentive for ex-players to go into refereeing, do you think it would attract more or is there another element to it? It's not just a financial thing.
Yeah, I think they're pretty well paid, the referees anyway. I mean, it's a decent wage they get. So I think the problem with it all is the time it takes you to go through the processes and go through the leagues and get your experience in to be able to manage at the top flight.
Okay.
And then there's an age limit as to where they think referees should referee until. And if a player retired at 35 and then did all his coaching badge or the referees assessments and everything, and goes through the leagues like they're supposed to, he'll only have just a few short years to actually officiate at the top level anyway.
Okay.
And so I think the only way around that is if you get professional footballers, perhaps 5 or 6 years before they're going to retire, to in their spare time to do that.
Okay.
Do that stuff, and then when they get to retirement, then they can become a referee in the top flight within the space of maybe 2 or 3 years, and that might make it more attractive. But I always felt like footballers, people fall into two categories. You either want to play football, or you're not very good at it and you become a referee.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though you love the game, and I think that I don't think there's too much appetite from what I've seen of actual players wanting to be referees.
Yeah. So if we cut the barrier to entry, what are any other things that could make it more attractive? I mean, maybe promoting it, or because most, a lot of players, ex-players, will go into coaching. They'll be doing the coaching badges kind of the last few years of their playing career. Yeah,
I mean, a bit of promotion for it might be good. I mean, I just think that having good mentors for the current referees would make a big difference, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
There's a lot of referees who have, done their time. They've recently retired. They would have learned from their experiences, you'd hope, and that they could pass that on. And I think that's the one big change that I'll make in the referees department.
Okay. Well, we've got a minute or two before we wrap up, Matt. It's been a lot of fun talking with you. Thank you for your time and for sharing your kind of wider experience on things. And it's fascinating because I think a lot of us are beginning to think these types of questions, because the conditions we're going through if people so choose, it affords them the time and maybe just the finger, the kind of the finger on their pulse of their own life and their own understanding. Some of us are beginning to, I see it more and more people are beginning to ask kind of more out of the box questions. Okay, 1 to 11, all time 1 to 11, and you can include yourself in this if you want to. Who would it be? Who would be your goalie? And what system would you play? And who would those 11 players be?
Oh, blimey! Put me on the spot there. That would need a bit more thought. I would probably say as a goalkeeper, Neville Southall was the best goalkeeper I played against.
Okay.
I believe in my time. So I would probably say Neville. Obviously, I didn't see Gordon Banks play much. There was some wonderful goalkeepers with great reputations, but I can't give an opinion.
Did you score many goals against Neville?
A couple. Yeah, not many.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Then, blimey, you're looking at left backs. I don't know. Roberto Carlos springs to mind.
Yeah.
As a left back. Centre backs. You're looking at. Best centre backs in the world. I mean, I think Virgil van Dijk is the best centre back I've seen play in the Premier League.
Okay.
I'm sure in the history of the game there might have been better centre backs, but I think he, from my experience of watching the Premier League for the last 20 years, I think he is head and shoulders above most of the other centre backs I've seen. I think you would probably put in there somebody like Franz Beckenbauer.
Yeah, Franz. Yeah.
right back. I think I'll have to leave the right back. There's not one that springs to mind straight away.
You can have three at the back if you want. You know, you could have Virgil, Franz, and Roberto.
Yeah, we could get, yeah, because that'll allow me more forward players, and that's my speciality. I know more about it.
Yeah.
Well, for a start, I would have to have in the team Diego Maradona, Lionel Messi, Zinedine Zidane, Johan Cruyff, Glenn Hoddle, who was my hero as a kid.
Nice, Glenn,
So I mean, there's 5 very forward-thinking players.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of a formation, I'd have to struggle a little bit. So we've got 9. I've got 2 more players left in there.
Got 2 more, yeah.
Blimey, I mean, where do you start? I mean, there's so many talented footballers in forward positions down the years. I mean, the Brazilian Ronaldo, you know, was just incredible. Even somebody like Ronaldinho, who was just
nice,
an absolute magician on a pitch. I mean, so there's 11 players, but I mean, what formation you try and pick them in to make it?
You could have a rotating 7.
Yeah,
just, you know,
it'd be something like that. Yeah,
you could do it without, you know. Well, I guess you could have Brazilian Ronaldo as a 9, but he was much more than a 9, wasn't he? But that actually, I mean, Diego Maradona, Lionel Messi, Johan Cruyff, Zinedine Zidane, Glenn Hoddle, Brazilian Ronaldo, and Ronaldinho.
There's not many wing backs in that formation.
No,
I'm just
hopefully they're so good to keep the ball.
Yeah, I'm just playing 3-7 formation.
Yeah, 3-7. There you go. 3-7, 7-3, 7-3's number. Yeah, brilliant. All right, my friend. Well, Matt, as always, it's always a pleasure to talk with you and break bread, and it's been fun, man. And look forward to doing it at some point again. And God bless you. Thanks for all the work you're doing, and let's look forward to the future.
Yeah, a good one, hopefully, mate.
Good one. A good one's coming, man. A good one's coming.
Cheers,
thanks,
Tom.
Matt. God bless you. Take care, man. Cheers.
Bye, mate.
Bye.